Hey guys, it's Alex Torelli, and today I'd like to talk to you about a big subject, finding purpose and things that are meaningful in our life, and how that relationship has worked with me over the years with poker, and where I'm up to now, and some of the things I'm struggling with, and hopefully some new direction. Coming up on Ask Alec.
Ask Alec.
So this question comes from one of my readers who is asking me about playing poker and saying that he's struggling with finding a lot of meaning with it because he feels a little bit like a hamster on a wheel, where every day he gets up and plays a lot of poker, plays professionally, but doesn't feel like he's building or creating anything because ultimately he's been playing for 3 or 4 years, and after that 3 or 4 year time, it's like nothing has been built or there's no fruits of his labor other than having made more money, but it's not like he's left anything behind. I made another video about this called Is It Wrong to Play Poker, where I shared my thoughts more about poker being a zero-sum game and how to find more meaning with it. But in this video, I'd like to share a little bit more about where I'm coming from, my thoughts on this, some of the things that I honestly am struggling with still to this day, because I definitely don't have all the answers, but I will share with you a little bit of my experience and my journey. So I definitely can relate to this. Like, I've felt a lot of times in my life where poker can be a part of my life, but when poker's the whole thing, I get overwhelmed and I feel like my life lacks a lot of meaning. And so I've always said poker is one slice of the pie, it's not the whole thing, and that's the relationship for me that works really well. I get a lot of messages from people on social media that are like, hey, I see you haven't played poker in a month, what are you doing? Do you even play poker anymore? And it's like, look, for me what works really well is dipping into the poker industry and being involved for like all in, because when I'm a pro poker player, I'm a pro poker player. You can't really do anything else with your life if you want to play poker at the highest level. You really got to be all in on poker. You got to be studying, you got to be playing, you got to be hustling to get in the games, you got to stay when the VIP is there. Sometimes you got to adjust your sleep schedule. It really doesn't allow for you to do any other things when you really want to compete at poker at a high level. So when I play poker and I go to, you know, a city where there's poker involved, I'm coaching, I'm playing, I'm teaching, I'm making videos, I'm doing a lot of things that are involved in poker, and I'm all in. But I don't want to live my whole life like that. That would be torture to me. Even though I love the game. I've played the game for 15 years, played millions of hands of poker. I dedicated a large part of my life to poker, where I was all in on poker, and that's all I did for a large period of my life. For like 4 or 5 years, I played, I don't know, 50, 60, 80 hours a week. Remember the first time I left my laptop at home, I was like, didn't know what I was going to do with myself. It was 3 years after I started playing. I took my first like vacation. I left my laptop at home. It was like, I felt like I was naked. So I did dedicate a large part of my life to poker, and that was meaningful for me at that period of my life when I was, you know, in my formative years, when I was 16, 17, 18, 19. But as I got older and I started to want to do something that made a bigger impact in the world and share my message with the world and society, I started to want to create something and build something, and poker doesn't give me that. So I can't dedicate all my time to poker. I can't see that ever happening in my future. And if that means that, you know, I'm not going to be as good of a player, or I'm not going to, you know, have as many bracelets or all that stuff, that's fine. I only have one life to live. If I had 500 years, I might dedicate more time to poker, but I only have maybe 50. And so it's really important to allocate that time that I have that's finite to things that are ultimately going to produce the highest satisfaction and meaning for me in my life. And so what I've found to do is be a part-time pro poker player is the best balance. I think playing, it's not realistic, or I don't find it the most productive to play like, you know, 2 hours every day. It's like, it's too draining, it's too much, it's too emotional, it's too hard to have poker be in your life all the time. It is like a drug, you know, and it's like, if you're going to do it, I think you should be all in on it. At least for me, I think I should be all in on it, where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go to Vegas and I'm gonna spend a month there and play poker for a month, and that's what my focus is gonna be for that period of my life. But then when I leave and I go back to LA or Italy or New York, I'm gonna spend time building my business or doing other things in my life or creating content or writing or things that are more meaningful to me with my time. And then so I could detoxify from poker completely and detach and have my entire mental space be dedicated to doing other things in my life that I find meaningful. And I know a lot of people out there that play too much poker, not necessarily, I don't say play too much, but play a lot of poker, feel like it's too much, and then they get a little bit of this sense of burnout. And so I actually made another video about this that I think you might want to, if you like this subject, you might want to reference, called Are You Burnt Out from Playing Poker?, where I talk a little bit more about this. But for me personally, like, I think throughout my life, purpose has always been a challenge, especially with finding that balance between playing the right amount of poker is challenging. And so sometimes you have to cross that threshold to know where it is and realize, wow, I've been playing too much poker, I'm neglecting other things in my life. Or sometimes you feel like, hey, I'd like to get more poker in, and then you could do that. So it's always this constant calibration and being aware of the fact that that right amount of poker might be different in different periods of your life. So in my young years, I guess I'm still sort of young, but when I was 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, the right amount of poker was every hour I was awake. And as I got older, the right amount has sort of leveled off and become, maybe once a week, or maybe dipping into the poker industry where I'm playing 5 days a week for a week or two or a month, and then I'm exiting for a month or two. And so I'm kind of bouncing around that way. And so I've been responsive to that, and I've been accepting of that and not trying to force it. And that was hard for me because I identified a lot of myself, and your self-worth gets tied up into being, excellent at poker and trying to compete at poker and, being seen as good by the public and having to keep up with that image. And so it was hard to kind of let that go and have people comment being like, oh, you're washed up, you're a has-been, you haven't played in years, you're like this and that. And then you have to accept the good with the bad. And so part of it is just being confident enough in yourself and what you're working on to know that what's right for you and to block out the noise around me. But that was hard to do as well because, there's the judgment and criticism of other people that I'm human. I'm not immune to that stuff. And so that's part of it too, is, what are other people going to think? If you played poker for a couple years and you're making money, you're paying bills and whatever, and then you kind of stop, people are going to judge. People are going to gossip. People are going to say, oh, it's because he went busto. It's because he can't make it. It's because, he's not good enough. And then you have that period where you have to allow space in your life to do something else, but you don't know what that something else is. And so there's that period of 3, 6, 12 months where you're kind of in limbo, but you're allowing space for things to happen, that there's that zone of you haven't made it at that next thing yet, and there's that judgment there. But a lot of people I feel like are in that transition where they're coming out of poker, or they want to have a side hustle, or they're realizing that their 5-year, 10-year plan is to play less poker, not a lot, but to play some poker, but not have it be their main thing. And one of the things, I just had a coaching session with a client the other day, and he was telling me, he's like, I'm making, he's making, I don't know, $100 an hour playing poker, which is a lot, plays full time, makes a good living. And I kind of took a step back and said, look, man, you're crushing it now, and we could focus on, you being better at poker. But one of the things I think you got to stop and think about is in 5 years, you might want to play poker, but you might not want to have to play poker. You feel that same passion about with poker. Like, I remember when I first discovered poker, I'd play so many hands that I saw cards in my sleep. Like, it's hard to find something where you don't want to go to bed at night because you're so excited about it, and you can't wait to get up in the morning because you're so excited about it. And poker gave me that for a long period of my life, and it's hard to find something else that I'm working on that's that exciting, where I feel like I'm having that big of an impact or a contribution to society. It would take something like that to feel that way. Think about things that I'm passionate about that I could see myself wanting to do, and I explore those ideas. But you gotta have, I feel like, you gotta have space in your life for that to happen. So you gotta have time every day where you're bored, time every day where you feel like you're wasting time every day where you feel like you might not have a direction or a purpose. And if that's only on nights or weekends because you have a job, and I respect that, that's fine. But it's about saying no to things that are just obvious distractions or obvious going in the wrong direction to open up space for the right direction. Kind of like in a relationship where if you know you're in a relationship that isn't gonna work, you're with a girl you're not gonna marry, then you might not know who you're gonna marry, but you gotta be single to allow that person to possibly come in your life. And so it's hard to say no to things because of the comfort of doing things that, even if, like poker for me, for a long period of time, I just played poker because it's what I knew, it's what I was good at, because I didn't want to have the judgment of other people, because I thought that's what I had to do, because I was, that's who I was, that's where my self-worth was wrapped into. And so I just felt like I was forcing it, and ultimately I ended up going through a downswing during that period because my head wasn't in it and I was losing. But I just forced myself to do the thing that I'd always done because it was comfortable, it's because it's what I knew, and it was harder to allow space in my life to do nothing or to find that new thing. And so that's a challenge that I pose to you guys to do as well. If there's something in your life that's just kind of like, you're just kind of going through the motions with it, but you know it's not right, block out that space for that thing, that new thing to come in, and that's where you could find some connection and meaning to something that goes beyond just what you're doing right now. And that's hard to do because you're throwing yourself into that abyss of the unknown and saying, hey, I don't know what I'm gonna do next, but I know it's not this. Hope you enjoyed this video. Leave me your thoughts in a comment below. I would love to hear from you guys. I get a lot of joy and a lot of insight from your comments and feedback as well. So leave me a comment below. Let me know. Give this video a thumbs up if you like it. I'd appreciate that. More awesome content coming your way on this YouTube. Subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you guys next time. Cheers.